What if I told you that Bitcoin has already become a part of Wall Street, even if you haven't noticed it yet? Today, we'll figure out what a Bitcoin ETF is, how it works, and why it could completely change the crypto market. Watch till the end, because only at the end you'll understand how an ETF can make Bitcoin the gold 2.0. Let's start simple. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund. In short, it's a way to invest in an asset, for example, gold or stocks, without actually owning it. You don't buy the asset itself. You buy a share of the fund that already holds this asset. It's convenient. You don't need to worry about storage, security, or fees. For example, there's a gold ETF. When you buy it, you don't keep a gold bar at home. You just own a piece of paper confirming that a bit of gold is stored for you in a bank. Now imagine the same thing, but with Bitcoin. That's exactly how a Bitcoin ETF works. When you buy it on the exchange, you don't actually own the Bitcoin itself. The fund buys it for you and stores it with a custodian, a special asset keeper. You just see on your brokerage account, I own 0.01 Bitcoin through an ETF. But why do we even need such a complex instrument if you can just buy crypto on an exchange? The answer, in two words: institutional money. Banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and large investors can't just go to Binance and buy Bitcoin. They need regulated instruments. And an ETF is exactly what gives them the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin legally and safely. No wallets, no seed phrases, no fear of hacks. When in January 2024, the SEC finally approved the first spot Bitcoin ETFs, the industry called it a historic event because for the first time, Bitcoin became an official part of the traditional financial market. Now you can buy it through a regular brokerage app, just like Tesla or Apple stocks. But here's the interesting part. A Bitcoin ETF is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a huge step toward the recognition of cryptocurrencies. On the other, it makes Bitcoin more corporate. Remember how in the beginning, Bitcoin was created as an independent, decentralized currency not controlled by banks or governments? Well, the ETF brings it right back to where it ran from, Wall Street. Now, Bitcoin is managed not by cypherpunk enthusiasts, but by companies like BlackRock and Fidelity, the largest financial institutions in the world. Yes, now more people can invest in Bitcoin, but in reality, they don't own it. They own a piece of paper, not a private key. And if tomorrow the fund decides to sell part of its reserves, you have no control over it. The ETF makes Bitcoin more convenient, but it removes the very essence of crypto: independence and control. Now let's see how this affects the price. When institutional money enters the market, it brings liquidity. This can drive the price up, as we saw after the launch of the gold ETF in 2004, when the price rose almost 5 times over several years. But on the other hand, institutions often act not as investors, but as traders. They buy when it's profitable and sell when it's time to take profits, which means volatility isn't going anywhere. Nevertheless, the launch of the Bitcoin ETF is a moment forever written into the history of cryptocurrencies. Now, Bitcoin is officially recognized as an asset that even those afraid of the word blockchain can invest in. And it's not just a step forward, it's a new level of crypto integration into the global economy. But here's the main question. Is this the end of decentralization ideals or the beginning of mass adoption? The answer, as usual, lies somewhere in the middle. The ETF brought Bitcoin closer to millions of people, but a bit further from its philosophy. So if Bitcoin is digital gold, then the ETF is that very banking vault that finally opened access to it for the entire world.